Hello, wonderful artists. Here we go. So we are doing our soft sculpture. Please make sure you review the PowerPoint before you come here. The steps are on there as well, but we're going to go through it in video too. So you need 2 pieces of paper. You need a scissor. A good scissor is great. Fabric scissors are wonderful if you can borrow some, or just good scissors. You'll need your needle. You should have 2 pins. You need your thread and your fabric, and then also some stuffing. You may also need some extra fabric, but we'll get to that in just a minute. First thing we're going to do is start drawing our monster. So on 1 piece of paper, you're going to draw your monster. Now your monster cannot be any bigger than this piece of fabric. So you can actually trace it if you want to, just so you know how big you can go. That's the biggest it can get. So now we're going to draw our monster. So you can draw whatever you'd like for this. There's designs in the PowerPoint if you want to look at them. We can start with big basic shapes. So maybe I wanted to have a big round head. And I want the body to be a little bit smaller. I can go all the way to the edge of how big it can go. So this actually fits in here. So that's all that matters, as long as it's the right size that'll fit on the fabric. Then I'm gonna decide if I want to add anything else. I kind of want it to have little spiky horn ears. Kind of like that. You could add whatever you'd like on this. So this is your monster, you design how you want it to be. This is just my idea. Try to make that a little bit more even with the other side. So I gave you some buttons, so if you want to make button eyes, you can. So you can draw them on there if you want to. Or if you want to make them out of fabric, you can do that too. So one thing I can do here is make the eye black, and then add some white fabric behind it. You could add teeth if you wanted to. Or maybe it's a nicer monster, so it's got a smiley face to it, even with those teeth. You could add extra things down here, so maybe it has little shoes on. Maybe it has little claws. To design and draw your monster, you could add extra things in here if you wanted to. First thing you want to do is design your monster. So now we've drawn our monster, we're going to go ahead and cut this out. So if you have fabric scissors, you may want to go grab a different pair because you're not supposed to cut paper with fabric scissors. But these I use for both because they're just good scissors. So you want to cut out your monster. So this will become our pattern. This will be the actual size and shape of our monster. So just like that. So here's my little monster guy. Now we need to check if he fits onto the fabric. Does he fit? Yes, he does. Just like that, he's a perfect fit. If you need to go diagonal, you can fit it diagonally if that works better for you. Just however, you need to make sure that the fabric is folded over so that you have 2 sides, because we're going to stuff it. So if you have one side, you can't stuff it, but if you have 2, you'll have a pocket you can stuff. So now we're going to do some sewing. We're going to take our paper and fold it in half, just like this. And any paper is okay for both the pattern and for this practice sewing. Then we're going to take our needle. So we're ready to prep our needle, and we're going to thread the needle first. So to thread your needle, you're going to take it on the very, very end. Here's my thread on the very end. And I'm just going to carefully thread my needle and grab the other side. Now we're going to hold on to the needle and put our elbow on the table. Take your needle and pull your end of your thread down to your elbow. So you should have 2 lengths of thread. That's about as long as from your hand down to your elbow. And that's how long you want it to be. If you go any longer than this, it can start knotting on itself, which is not a good thing. So where it stopped right here, I'm going to cut the other thread, so just one thread. So I have my needle and then the ends over here. So it's about the length from my hand to my elbow. That's about as long as we want to go. All right, this is where it's going to be a little bit harder, but it'll go so much faster if you learn how to knot like this instead of like trying to take it and knot it every time. You want to take the ends like this and pinch it. So it's in between my thumb and my pointer finger. I'm pinching the ends of the thread and my needle is hanging down here. So I'm not even touching the needle, I'm just holding the end of the thread. Now this side where the needle is, I'm going to take the thread, wrap it around my index finger, my pointer finger, and then pull this thread towards the back of my hand that's pinching. That makes sure that the two threads are crossing over, so you can see that they're crossing over. Now we're going to push down on our thumb and roll. Can you see how it's twisting? See that twist? That's what you want. Stop there. Put the thread onto your thumb. Take your middle finger, press it onto your thumb like this. Pull the thread where the needle is, pull that thread, and then slowly let go on your pointer finger. And as you pull, you're gonna get a knot. Now don't pull on the extra little threads down here that can undo it. You just pull from the front here and then pull it onto the knot. Don't go past the knot, don't pull back there. So practice that a few times. It usually takes about 7 to 8 times of trying it before you can get it. So watch that part over and over until you get it. Take your time, then you should end up with a knot at the end of your thread. All right, so you've practiced it, you've gotten your knot, you're ready to go. We're gonna practice sewing. So we're gonna do 3 different types of stitches here. So the first one we're gonna do is called the overcast stitch. So you always wanna hide your thread, your knot, so you don't wanna see the knots. They're not very pretty. So we're gonna open up the 2 pieces of paper, go in between like this, and then pull until the knot hits the paper, just like that. Then we're gonna hide the knot by sandwiching it. So the overcast stitch means it loops around the side. So we're gonna go from the back to the front or front to the back. Whatever side you start on, you just keep going through it. You press through and you pull. So I'm gonna continue going from behind. And you can see it's looping around the side there. So we're gonna do about 5 of these to get a good practice in. So loop it, so I've gotten 3. Kind of tug on it every time so that it gets tight. You don't want your stitches to be loose, otherwise things can kind of undo over time. Tug, tug, tug. So you can see this one is too close to the other ones. I can just pull that over and just adjust it. So if you have stitches that are going somewhere weird, you can kind of pull it over and adjust it. And here is our overcast stitch. So I've done 5 of these, so I'm done with this. Now we're gonna move into our running stitch. So running or straight stitch is the one that's the most common. It's just down and up and down and up. So I'm gonna press down, pull it through, pull all the way, then go up, pull all the way through, go down. So this is the most common kind of stitch, is your running stitch. So we're gonna do that 4 times. So I see 4 stitches. So it's 1, 2, 3, and then 1 more. Here is 4. All right. So now we have our running or straight stitch. Okay. The last kind of stitch we're gonna do is our back stitch. So I'm gonna go along this edge for this one right here. So I'm just gonna take my needle, push it through. It starts like the running stitch. So I'm gonna go along this way. I'm gonna go down and then up Now here's where it's different. The back stitch connects over, so it fills in this gap that's right there. So I'm going to go back through the same hole that was from this stitch. I'm going to pull it. Do you see how that becomes a line instead of a gap? So this one has gaps. The running stitch has the gaps in it. The back stitch goes back over those. Now on the back, I'm going to scoot over towards the front again of my line. I'm going to pull it through like this, then fill in the gap. So go a little bit farther up and fill in the gap. This one is really good for drawing lines. So if you want to do like a line for your little monster, so if I wanted to do a line for that mouth, the back stitch would be really good for that. So now we've done our different kinds of stitches. Let's go ahead and practice knotting the thread. So at the end of your thread, you should leave about a finger's length so that you can knot your thread. So about here to here, so about 3 or 4 inches. Then you're going to grab a little bit of your fabric like this. So this is paper, but when you do this, it'll be fabric. Grab a little tiny, can you see how small that is? A tiny, tiny little amount. And I didn't go all the way through, it was just through one layer of paper. Pull it, and then when you see the loop, grab the loop. Once you have the loop, you're gonna go through the loop and then tug on it lightly. I like to do that 2 or 3 times in the same spot, as close as I can together. So that way, go through the loop, tug, 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 tug. So that way your fabric doesn't come undone. Your stitching stays in place. So this is kind of like the anchor. It makes it stay there. It's not gonna undo. All right, so once you've done that 2 or 3 times, I like to do 3 because I like to be safe. You're just gonna cut your thread. All right, we're gonna start off here in the next video.